Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington, and I'm so excited today to be joined by Kelsey Parker of Wandering Blooms Events. It was supposed to be snowpocalypse this week, and school's canceled. The roads are bare, but I do appreciate you making the trek over here to sit down and meet. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Kelsey Parker. I own Wandering Blooms Events, and I have been running my business for about 3 years. So we do wedding planning and floral design. So full service wedding planning, partial, day of, month of coordinating, and floral design. So yeah.
Perfect. And I was looking through your site, and I will have to say, probably one of my favorite podcast guests. You are also married to a Reed.
Yes, I am. He spells it R-E-E-D though.
Yeah, so. we won't hold that against him. But I was very excited this morning when I was looking through your site, and I thought because there's not a ton of us.
I know.
So it's good to have another one. Yeah.
I'm very partial to the name.
That's funny. So you're from Texas?
Yeah. So I'm from Texas. Grew up there, and then moved here about 3 years ago in July.
And what was it about Seattle that kind of drew you guys up here?
So my husband, his job brought us up here, and he actually left that job and took another job in the area. And we've been here and bought a house and have just been enjoying it, minus the snow, even the small snow that we've gotten this year. But it's been good.
Perfect. And so what is it about weddings? How'd you kind of get started in all this? You do, I guess we should say, so you do full wedding planning, you do partial, and then florals. What is it about all that kind of gets you excited, and how'd you get involved?
So I guess I need to go back and explain how I fell in love with events. I grew up around events, and I knew that I wanted to do something in that capacity. I went to Texas A&M University. My major was hospitality and tourism with a specialty in events and event management. I didn't really know what capacity I wanted to work. I thought I wanted to work like more corporate events. And I did a study abroad for Norwegian Cruise Line. So I knew I loved events. I just didn't know what capacity. And so I worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters at one point, doing nonprofit events, Marriott doing more corporate events. And then I just really miss like one-on-one connections with people, and just started doing weddings through like floral. And then I was like, wow, I love the logistics side of this. Brings me back to my old days working corporate. And so then I just started doing weddings and fell in love with that. And I love that time of life. I think also planning my own wedding was something that I realized like, oh, I really do love this part. And being a part of like someone's life during that time is really, really great.
Yeah. What was it like for you guys getting married? What was that whole process?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So we got engaged right whenever my husband got promoted. And we knew we wanted to get married in like the fall. And we decided just to get married within like 3 months of getting engaged, because we didn't want to do the whole back and forth, like wedding showers and all the traveling. And we both I didn't have a job yet at the time. And so we were just like, let's just do it like in Texas. So I planned the wedding in I think like less than 3 months in Texas. So we got married in Dallas, and that was really fun, really stressful. But I was like, wow, I'm like really good at this. And it kind of just started there, and fell in love with that side of the events.
That's funny because I've heard a lot. I've met with couples over the years, and they say, oh, once we get married, like we're going to go into weddings, or we're going to start our venue. And so I always laugh, and I think like, let's get through the actual planning, before you decide if you're going to enter it. But you did, and you actually kind of really fell in love with it.
Yeah. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and my aunt she works for Marriott, and she loves events. And I think just kind of having that entrepreneur blood in my veins, and just trying to figure out, I knew I wanted to do something on my own one day, just But, when you get out of college and you don't really know what you want to do. And so I kind of played around with a lot of things. I actually taught high school, and I taught like event planning and hospitality. I managed a program, and I loved that for a little bit. And then I was like, I miss the actually doing it part. And I have a passion for teaching others. But so after that, I decided I'm going to do it on my own, and I'm going to start my business and stop, waiting for the perfect time. So I just did it.
Well, and that's like the thing nowadays is it's a lot easier to do that. I mean, it's a lot more commonplace, I think, even like, me, quitting, people quitting jobs and stuff. Was that scary to kind of, like you said, your family, but, still like making that leap and kind of saying like, hey, I'm really going to do this. And, if it doesn't work, you kind of fall on your face.
Yeah. So, I mean, number one, moving, just picking up our lives and moving was really hard. And I think honestly, that prepared me for starting my business because it took me out of my comfort zone. I honestly don't know if I would have started my business as early as I have if I wouldn't have moved across the country and gotten away from, all the comforts that I grew up around. So that, number one, helped me. And then being in the position of teaching hospitality and tourism, I knew I loved it, but I knew that I wasn't reaching my full potential. So I taught a year and ran my business for a year. And then I was like, I can't do both because I'm not giving my best for my students and I'm not giving my best for my business. So I actually quit my job and started running my business. I probably quit a little early, to be honest, because, money was tough and it was hard. And there were days I woke up and I was like, why am I doing this? It's so, so hard. And, having a partner that, doesn't always understand my, my drive. And when I say it's going to work out, it's going to work out. Like when they're kind of like panicking is a little hard, but, he's been super supportive, and that's been great, but it's not been easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And, I think that, people that, do work or, my wife and stuff like, because like we can have really good weeks. Like you were talking, we were talking before we recorded, like, oh, like it might spur and I get, book 3 weddings in a week. Right. But it's not about like that good week. It's about replicating that like every week.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like the times are great when you wake up and you have like 5 inquiries and you're like, wow, this is awesome. But you also have to have that mindset all the time, because if you rely on those times during your business and that's your happiness, then you're not going to make it. And there were times where I woke up and I was like, wow, I haven't booked a wedding in like 3 weeks. What is happening? And, sometimes I let that get me down, and I found it really hard to like open my computer and get on social media and act like, I was super happy. But I think just being open about that too with other industry professionals has helped me, because I found out I wasn't alone in that. And I think Instagram and Facebook is great, but it's easy for us to look at other people's businesses and be like, wow, they really have it together. And even people will come to me and be like, wow, you're really like, you're doing so well. Like you really have made it. And I'm like, but we all don't see each other's like back end and like what's happening. Like, we have hours and hours of like accounting and working on, the back end of our books and making sure that we're able to pay our bills. And it's, it's easy to assume other people have it easier than us, but it's great reaching out to other professionals and keeping kind of a level head and knowing that, hey, it's not easy for anyone. Even if you're been in this for 10 plus years, it's hard.
Yeah, it's so hard. And like, trying to let like the rejections roll off. And, it's like, maybe you've been going back and forth with someone and you think you're going to book. And like the hardest thing, like for me, it'll be like, like I feel like Mondays you get a lot of emails, like people over the weekend. And I get a lot of like corporate stuff too. And like, you might wake up on a Monday and you get like 4 or 5 rejections, and so like by the end of the day, you're just like, wow, this is like really
like
hard.
Reset button, like let's start over. But yeah, I mean, not taking it personally took me a while. because I was like, oh, they said they love my work. They say they love me, but then why didn't they, press the button and sign? And the thing is, we don't know what's going on in their lives. And, they might, I realize I might be out of their budget and they just can't make it work, and that's fine. But it's not personal. It's not about me. So.
No, it's hard. And like, until it's, until it's dotted and signed and, the contract, because, you've had that too, or like, I'm talking, one of our brides from the summer, she's going to be the bridesmaid, and, they're whatever going to book, or supposedly. Mm-hmm. And like, she emailed me yesterday, like, oh, it sounds like, they're going to book. And I said, well, yeah, but you don't know until because anything could happen. He could get laid off tomorrow and they don't have the money. Or, we've had that too, where like, someone was going to get a promotion and they didn't get it, and then they got a scrap. It could be anything, and so it is hard. Like you said, you don't know like what's going on, but you do got to keep a good front.
Yeah, you do.
What was the hardest part? Obviously besides like finding clients of starting the business, was it did you have trouble kind of navigating that whole? It's a lot of work to like, do all that,
right? Because you can't just go online and be like, how to start a wedding planning business. Like, of course, there's going to be articles and stuff like that, but it doesn't really tell you what it's going to be like. A lot of your business is trial and error and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. I am not really great at asking for help too, so that didn't help. And then I think in our industry, asking for help from other people that have quote unquote made it is really hard, because a lot of people are really busy or charge for that. And I, at the time of starting my business, I didn't have the money to be like, oh, I need a mentor. But just figuring it out and pulling from, obviously my major was hospitality and tourism. So I had that to pull from. I had prior knowledge, internships, and things like that I can pull from. So I was blessed in that regard, that I could really kind of pull from that. But so yeah, I guess just being able to pull from my prior knowledge and things, and then trial and error. And it wasn't perfect. It took me a while to really figure out like what my scope was and who my clientele were, and figuring out, doing events that I probably didn't make as much as I should have charged and things like that, and figuring out where I really wanted to be serving. Yeah.
So I was going to ask a couple things here. First off, you're talking about finding, your ideal clients.
Yeah.
Who do you feel like, enjoy working with you, and who do you enjoy working with? Because, it is kind of a two-way street.
Yeah. So I always find that my ideal clients are very similar to me. I'm younger, and I think I attract people that are similar to me. And which is, great for selling your business, because you're like, what would I like? But it's hard to say who my perfect client is. We all have, written out like who our clients are and like where they shop and blah, blah, blah. But as far as like who my client is, it differs, because I do have a Texas base and I do have Seattle. So my Seattle couples are not the same as my Texas couples. So really learning how to speak to them and what they want, and things that I need to reassure them during the booking process are very different per region. I think my Seattle couples like need to know a little bit more about different aspects than my Dallas people. So I think it honestly just depends. There's not like a secret like scenario that I can do for all couples. What I really stress is just building that relationship with my clients or potential clients. I really take time to sit down and get to know them. Like, I want to know what your dog's name is and be able to talk about that. Like, I can spend time forever talking to my clients about their dogs. And, I really do try to get to know them on a personal level, not just to, win clients. It is to actually be able to get to know them and see if I'm the right fit for them. So
absolutely. What, because I think a lot of people that like work in Seattle or whatever, really only know this market.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest difference, from Seattle, from going, and where you kind of bounce back and forth, but especially coming here, like, I know it's like, big wedding, we talk about like big weddings in Seattle, like 300, but they'll do like 500,
oh, yeah.
whatever. But what
Yeah.
are some, what are some of the
What
other?
are some differences? I mean, honestly, one of the big differences is money. I know that sounds kind of shallow, but it's really is. I don't know if it's like Southern people, we like to flaunt money or show it off maybe a little bit more. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I feel like Southern people, maybe we like to have bigger parties and have all of our close people in, I don't know, in the room. Not saying that people in Seattle don't either, because I've had a 300-person wedding in Seattle as well. But I think it's just a little bit more about like the showiness and the importance of like, some people care more about like the showiness of like the flowers and the decor. And I find that some people in Seattle just, they would rather just go hiking and get married, which is great too. Like I think both are great. Whatever is, meant for the couple, what makes them happy makes me happy. So.
No, I think that's fair. And I mean, like, even, when we're at weddings and, you're just kind of always like, I just kind of film everything. But then I was showing Matt yesterday, we were talking about an old wedding client, and I was like looking up a video and I was like, oh, wow, this actually was like a really expensive wedding. Like, like sometimes you just don't even, you're like, oh, wow, they really did like spend.
Like they care more about like the little things, and that's fine. Like some people care more about those things than others. And I mean, it doesn't matter to me what I'm not saying like, oh, you have to have this. I'm more care about what my clients want and what makes them happy. And I always stress like, are you wanting to have that because it's something that you want or because you saw it on Pinterest? I want to make sure that it's something that if they're spending money on it, like that they really, really actually want it.
Yeah, I mean, like we didn't, we absolutely didn't, like the things we prioritized, like for our wedding was like very different even than like the clients that I get booked to shoot, I mean, and that's also, I mean, it's weird too, planning the wedding and like as a wedding vendor, like where it's really hard to compare because like, well, you go, and I'm sure like, you have these clients that have these budgets and you're like, I don't know if I would ever spend that.
Yeah, right, right. And like everyone's different and yeah, I don't know. I personally didn't spend over $10,000 on floral, but if someone wants to do that, that's amazing. I love it. And, the pictures are going to turn out really beautiful. And if that's important to them, then we'll make it happen.
No, because I did. And it just is like a totally tangent now, but I do think like people, where we're like, you always hope like, people hire me and people hire whatever. And like, but yeah, when we were planning our wedding, like I absolutely wouldn't. We absolutely were as budget conscious as anybody else.
Yeah.
About, like, well, okay, do we really need all this? Or trying to figure out like, the number of hours of photography. I mean, stuff that I am on the other side with all the time, telling people like, oh, well, book us for whatever. Yeah. It doesn't matter. But then when it was our wedding, like we were like, oh, dude, I don't know if we really need that extra hour.
I know. So it's great already having that like planning experience of like your own wedding. Cause then I'm like, okay, thinking back, I got married 3 years ago, so it's still pretty fresh. I'm like, okay, I remember I was kind of worried about my budget and how I wanted to spend. So stepping into those, those steps and knowing that your clients are going to have those hesitations has really helped me because I can like reassure them. I'm like, hey, like, I didn't get a day of person because my aunt did it. But guess what? Like, I didn't get to see my aunt very much that day. And I'm like, it's really hard for me to admit that because I am a planner and I should have known how important that was. But I was trying to like cut my budget and I didn't get to see my aunt that much because she was dealing with the wedding and I really wish that I wouldn't. And, I can kind of see a light bulb flip on like with my clients. I'm like, wow, like if you like as a planner didn't even want to spend that like, but you're saying it's important, then it must be important. And, it's not always just about money for me and my business. I really do want them to have the best time for their wedding. And I wish, going back, I would have spent that, extra $800, $1,000+ just so my aunt didn't have to run around crazy dealing with things on my wedding. I could have enjoyed it and she could have enjoyed it more. So
no, I mean, I remember I can't remember where I come across. There was some video company that was here and they ended up moving like right when we were getting married. But I remembered kind of getting into the business and being like, wow, this is like the pinnacle of, what I would want. And then, we got engaged, went on and it was like $7,000 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I am definitely not like this is out of like, this
Yeah.
is, like, do I really care enough to pay the fly of the man? Like it's tough, because you sit there and you have all these grand ideas, and then when it comes down to it,
Yeah, it's like you start cutting things for sure, and it's hard. Like I say before, like Pinterest is great, but it also, our job as vendors is to educate our clients and be like, hey, like I see you looking, I always make my clients invite me to their Pinterest board so I can see like where their minds are going. Like sometime during the week I get notification, I'm like, what are they looking at right now? And so I will pull it up and I'll be like, hey, like Claire, I see that you're looking at these things, but I just want to let you know these are very extravagant florals that you are pinning, and you only have $2,000 in your budget for floral. So I just want to let you know before you start getting, your dreams and everything built up that, we might have to adjust your budget a little bit if this is the look you're going for. So I think just making sure that we're educating our clients on those Pinterest boards and things that are happening, because they don't know, and that's okay. Like it's our job to let them know. They don't deal with this every day, and more than likely the couples that we are getting haven't gotten married before, or if they have, it might have been, a while ago or something of that. So that's okay that they don't know it. And at first when I started my business, I was upset because I was like, oh, why don't they want to pay? Why don't they want to pay for this? Like they don't see my value. But then I had someone tell me like the reason why they are fighting back so much on that is you're not showing your value. And that kind of like hit me hard. I was like, wow, like I thought my website or my Instagram was showing my value, but no, it's us like educating them and telling them exactly, what we can do for them and why it's important is really, really showing your value, more than what, your previous weddings and stuff on your Instagram and whatever. So, yeah.
No, I've said many times on the podcast, I think that being a wedding planner is the hardest, one of, if not the hardest, thing to sell to clients, because, even like our own wedding, like it was like pulling teeth to get Dorothy to Skype with our wedding, like it was so hard and she was so against it. And it wasn't even not that we weren't like loaded, but it was like, do we need to spend that on that?
Yeah. And it's like, well, I can do it myself. So it is very hard to talk to someone that has that mindset. But like I said, showing your value and being like, hey, like I planned my own wedding, but I had the background to do so without it becoming and consuming my life and my engagement and taking me away from, being happy and being the quote, fiance, bride, or whatever you want to say. But I mean, if I wouldn't have had that experience, it consumes you and it's stressful. And, I only did it in 3 months and that's super hard. But imagine like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't think I would want to drag it out a year, because then you really have it on your back burner all the time and you're always thinking about it. And that's what I tell my clients, whenever I'm, they inquired and I'm talking to them, I'm like, are you sure you only want like month of or like partial? Because, do you want this on your back burner? I know you have this like big corporate job that you might not have a lot of time. And I know you have like these vacations lined up. And so that's why getting to know them on a personal level and know what they have going on in their life is also important, because sometimes like I get inquiries that I'm like, I don't think full service would be good for you because you love the planning aspect. And so maybe partial, so we can like kind of team up and work on it together. So it really is getting to know who they are, so I can make sure that they are getting the right service, and not just trying to sell them something.
So how do you try to sell your value? How is it through that education? I mean, how do you, when you're meeting with people and on your website and just in general, how do you, make it so that they, think that you're worth, and how do you try to show the value of wedding planning?
Like I was saying, educating them and telling them about, what we do and all the things, and kind of diving into that. We have on our website, like what our service includes, but really diving in and saying, okay, like think about on your wedding, like, are you going to have time for this? Do you want your mom to be running around doing things and setting up your tables? Do you want your girls to be in their robes and setting up all the centerpieces? Or would you rather just walk out and have it done and just enjoy, like have a, glass of champagne in your hand? So I think what I do is, number one, like I've been saying, like relationships, I really try to identify what's important to them and, click with that and say, okay, I see that having that relaxing time with your girls is really important to you. So it's different. There's not a secret for each, for every client. It's honestly based on each client. And before I even send out quotes, I always have a introductory phone call and a questionnaire. It's like, I beat them over the head with like questions, and they're probably like, why is this woman asking so many things? But it's because I want to know about them so I can give them the best service. Like I said, full service isn't for everyone. It wasn't for me. Like if someone would have tried to sell me full service planning, I wouldn't have been listening. And, I have to think about that whenever I'm reaching out to clients and they're inquiring. I can't just try to upsell them if it's not what they're interested in, because then immediately they're just going to shut me out and not be interested. So it's really getting in there and knowing about them and who they are.
No, I totally agree. I mean, that's like some videographers, it's like they just do like all day whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's great, but like that's not for everybody, right? And like I think that it is daunting to some people sometimes for like, all day, like I don't, that's crazy. But if you're like, well, maybe, and then maybe later on you do find out that they need to have a little bit more, or you can kind of scale it. But I do think like it's not a one size fits all for a lot of different stuff. Not. And I think like you said, really kind of getting to know them, I think it's really important.
For sure.
Do you find that, just as couples are getting, people, it's just so busy nowadays and trying to work. And like you said, you got a corporate job or whatever you're trying to plan. Do you find that people are more accepting of like, oh yeah, we should get a planner? Or do you find that that's more like that you are this, I guess that it's more, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know the word.
Is it easier to book people? So I'm finding it actually like an easier sell as I don't know, as I'm getting older, because something about this generation that I'm in that, people now, I'm starting to be older where it's like people younger than me now are starting to get engaged and married. But I'm noticing something about this generation coming up. It's like everyone either like has a side hustle or like they're really motivated to like move up in their jobs. And it seems more so than usual. Maybe it's just because I am in that stage of my life and I'm identifying more with that. But I'm finding people are more hustling and getting stuff done, or maybe I'm just attracting that clientele. Could possibly be that because that's how I am. But I'm finding it's easier to sell to them because I'm like, hey, like you are working on all these things. So let me deal with all of that and you can focus on everything else. Or, if they love the planning side, because I've gotten planners that have chosen me to plan their wedding because they were like, I plan all the time. Like, I want you to do it, but let's do it like together where I can overlook everything and just kind of like give you my vision and you just book everything for me. So it just depends on who they are. But for the most part, I am finding it a little easier lately. But like I said, I think it's just because I really have found who my clients are.
It's just, I can't imagine anyone nowadays with just how busy everyone is not, at least having some sort of partial, and like I said, I felt like I knew a lot. And there was still stuff that like, I was like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of that. And like, this is what I do. I mean, I was full-time weddings when Dorothy and I got married. We did 62 weddings the summer we got married, right? But it's like, do you think like, I didn't know my way around, but then there were still tons of stuff I didn't know because that's not, even if like you're a photographer, like you don't know how to plan a wedding, even if you're you do whatever, musician, like you need to have someone that knows, the ins and outs. And there's just so much stuff that that each vendor knows of their own type, but as that planner, just being able to see everything. Yeah. And in the world of events, nothing's ever going to go the way you want it. It's just the way
things are, and knowing how to combat those things even before they come and figuring that out. Like, that's always what I tell my clients is like, something is going to go wrong, but like, we're going to take care of it where you don't even know until after. Or, sometimes stuff happens and I don't even tell my clients and they don't know, and that's totally fine. And that's what I'm there for. And that means I'm doing my job well. So, yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you about earlier, and that we kind of got sidetracked, with the degree and everything you got from school and kind of going through that whole, what kinds of things do you learn in that? I don't know. I mean, it seems to me like it's a really specialized kind of, but obviously you said you feel like a lot of that helps you now. So what were some of the things that you feel like you're better equipped having kind of learned all that?
Yeah. So my major really did help me, and I loved it. And it's a very fun major too. But we learn about tourism management, hospitality. I had event planning classes. I had event management classes, things like that. Internships in the hospitality industry, guest services, how to really connect with clients, business related. We also had, like marketing and business classes, and really diving into those aspects. So it's kind of just an overall realm of the industry in all aspects, not just events. It's like corporate and working for like, big name corporations like Marriott, even like Amazon's, and like how to deal with those types of things, like business, diving into those things. I mean, we even had classes like learning how to code, and even though I'm like really bad at websites. So, but I mean, I learned that at one point, that's over 5-6 years ago now, but it's still great to be able to pull from those. Mainly I'm pulling from like more my real life internships that I did. Cause I interned with Marriott. I interned with Norwegian Cruise Line, like doing, a cruise tourism management internship. And so really pulling from those. Oh, and I did nonprofit, like Big Brothers Big Sisters. I did like nonprofit fundraising and planned a big event for them in Houston. So, I mean, just pulling more from those and remembering all the mistakes I made and thinking that I really was on top of the world and I knew what I was doing. And looking back, I'm like, Kelsey, you had no idea like what you were doing. And just taking aback and being like, okay, like you learned from that and you probably made mistakes and you thought you were, everything and you thought you were so good. And now just like being able to know that it's okay to make mistakes and learning from them is what's important.
Yeah, do you feel like there was a lot of things you learned kind of going through that and doing more of that corporate stuff?
Yeah.
What were kinds of, just handling large scale stuff. I mean, what were some things that you feel like specifically now are kind of helping you with weddings?
Yeah. So learning how to talk to different people was number one. I'm a really personal relationship type of person, which comes over in my business a lot. But being in the corporate world and being able to talk to anybody and everybody, and treating everybody with the same respect is something that, I grew up that way, and like talking to like custodians the same way you talk to a CEO of a business, and treating everyone and finding their value and making them feel wanted and things like that just really helped with the corporate and being flexible. And I learned so many things from every job that I had growing up and coming through into where I am now that I honestly pull from every job that I had. I mean, even in high school, I worked at Target and I was a cashier. And so, even like having experience with that, helps me in my business somehow, some way. So it's really cool to be able to build your business and pull from everything that you've done.
No, I always say that it's even, two vendors of the same type, just what's gone into your past and kind of your backstory really does just dictate kind of different, you can be doing the same thing and it's just totally different depending on the route that you took.
Yeah. And that's what we say to the planners in our community is like, your clients are not my clients. And there's no need for us to be having that, competitive relationship with each other, because why have that toxic relationship with each other when we can say, hey, like, how do you handle this? Because the truth is their clients are not mine and mine are not theirs, because we all have our perfect clients that relate to us and we can give them something that someone else can't. So that's just how it is.
No, I'll hear from, planners or whoever, if, someone didn't go with me, who the, who, do you hear who they went with or whatever? And sometimes you'll hear and you're like, oh yeah, that was definitely
fits,
not, definitely not my client.
Yeah.
Like if that's what they wanted,
Right.
which is great, but that's definitely that would not have been a good fit.
But when starting your business, that's hard. I remember I'd be like, who did, sometimes I didn't even ask. It's like, oh, I don't want to know. But at the same time, what happened is I had a client come in on that same day and they were my perfect client. Everything was super great and it went well and we ended up clicking and I still even stay connected with them now. So it's everything happens for a reason and we know that, someone might pass on us, but who knows what's next.
No, the big thing I kind of implemented this year, we went to the wedding MBA back in, I guess it was October.
Oh, I went to that too.
Oh,
we didn't connect though.
We didn't know.
I know.
But the big thing, I went to this DJ thing and he was talking about doing a 1/loss sale post survey. About if you lose the sale, right? If somebody emails and says hey, we decided to go, a different direction. And not because, there's a difference between emailing back and being oh, well, who did you go with? Versus hey, here's an official survey that we have, please complete it. We'll give you a Starbucks gift card or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But doing that and making it more formal, like I said, than just hey, who'd you go with? Yeah.
Or usually I get personal kind of relationship with them. So they'll add me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'll just see who they go with. A lot of times I honestly don't ask who they go with unless they tell me.
Well, it's nice.
But it is cool to think about doing a survey like that. I've never thought about that.
Well, it's nice. And, so it's quick. It's 8 questions or whatever, but it's, who did they go with? Why, what did they like about your work? What did they like? And but to me, it's been really beneficial this year, just to kind of see, trends and where things are. Was price a factor? Was this a factor? And then also sometimes you'll say, oh, well, they're I can't remember, there was one the other day and we were really talking and they said, oh, my cousin ended up coming out of the woodwork and he's going to do it for cheap
it's usually
or whatever.
A family member.
But then you're okay, great. That. But then,
then you're not their client anyway. And gosh, that frustrated me at first because they were my aunt's going to do my day of. And I was like, Kelsey, you had your aunt do your day of. So you can't get too mad, but that's fine because that just means that wasn't important to them as much as it is to you. And I mean, I had to learn how to let it go because I'd be like, oh, they're going to regret it on their day. But it is what it is. And at that point, they've already made the decision. So
no, my wife will say the same thing, oh, don't they get that? And
I know, yeah.
But that's all I think about all day is video, right? And that's not what they
right.
Maybe
they don't sit there and think about oh my gosh, what's going to happen if someone forgets their bouquet at the Airbnb? And I'm over here it happens all the time. Okay, so yeah, they're not in that mindset as we are.
Yeah. What do you wish that more people knew about or asked about wedding planning? I ask, vendors of all kinds, but what do you wish you find you're educating people on? I know we've talked about the just the importance of having someone, but what do you find that you're constantly answering the same questions or you wish people knew?
That's kind of a hard one. I think I really try to tell people how much time it really takes. Just think about, quoting out one vendor. And then we have clients that want to quote out 10 people and try, I'm okay, you don't need to do that. So I really try to file it down to okay, what are 3 venues that you like? And then I have brides sending me 10. I'm no. You keep comparing to this one place. So let's go with that one or pick 2. So we really scale down what they're looking at. And, we still talk with them a lot and they make a lot of decisions. We can't plan their wedding without them making decisions, right? But it takes a lot of time for us to know, number one, who the vendors are that we want to work with and who would fit with that person. So as a planner, we know how to do that, right? But the clients don't. They're starting from scratch. They're starting from Pinterest boards and going from there. They're having to scan Instagram, scan websites, look at reviews and stuff. And we already know who is, capable of doing that and who we enjoy working with. And I make sure that the vendors I work with are enjoyable to work with, right? And will connect with my clients the way, my experience scans, you better have a good time like getting your makeup done, because that's still part of the experience working with me. Like, I planned it. So I think just knowing how much time and effort it really takes, which people don't really know until they get into it, which is why partial planning is becoming popular, because people will start planning and they're like, hold on, I don't have time for this. So then they'll come in, 7 or 8 months in and like, hey, like, we already started. We have at least our venue and our photographer booked, but we need help.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Just, paring down, like, and obviously you want, to find the right people and you want to have, your team of the day, but like, yeah, if you're looking at 20 different, whatever.
Yeah.
And like I was talking with this girl and she ended up not going with me, but she had said like, hey, I'm trying to find a photographer too. Like, here's the 25 photographers I've looked at already.
25?
Or it was like
the ones
from, it was like the venue had recommended. Like, it was crazy. And I'm like,
that's a lot, because they're looking at reviews. They're looking at your previous work. Like, just think about each time that they're clicking on someone's website, and then they're going to go to their Instagram, and then they're going to see like, oh, do they have a Pinterest board or a Facebook page? Like, that alone is at least 30 minutes, and people don't realize like that's a lot of work. And yeah, so I think just educating people on that. And even, I ask my clients, like, how long did it take you to even find a planner? Like, am I the first planner that you've talked to? I don't mind asking that, because I'm like, that took a long time, didn't it? So it takes a while. Yeah. Some people, I don't know. Honestly, some people will just kind of go with it and pull the trigger fast on vendors, but most people are going to really dive deep and figure out who they're going to work with.
Well, no, and it is that balance, because, we've had like, there was a couple years ago, we had we were doing the show and we booked a couple of people like really quick off that. And then it ended up later on that there was, once everything went done, they're like, oh, wow. Okay. Maybe when they got like their final stuff and they're like, oh, maybe we should have spent more time.
Yeah.
And I said, well, because I don't know that, right? Like when you book, I mean, I guess unless you're asking, but like, I didn't, I don't know that was a major thing. And I had assumed that you had done the research. So it is that balance, right? Where you want to do some research.
Right. And you don't want your clients to have buyer's remorse either. And with any of their vendors, including myself, like, I want them to feel like they're getting the bang for their buck with every vendor. So I want them to do that research, but if they hire me, I've already done that research. So that's what I stress to them is, we already know who we enjoy working with and who we know is, experienced, or just making sure that they have the right license and insurance. Like, some people don't even know to look for that. And then they end up getting ghosted, sadly. And I know that's been happening a lot in Seattle with vendors just ghosting people, and that's not okay. So knowing that that's not going to happen.
Before we let you go, I want to talk about the Planners Collective as well. So why don't you kind of tell us about that and what's going on?
Sure. So me and Lex with Humble Event Seattle, we both are the founders of the Planners Collectives, and we have a Seattle chapter that we started, and we're working on Dallas and other actually nationwide, which is really exciting. So it's a member-based membership community, and everyone pays a yearly membership, and we have monthly meetings, education. We bring in industry professionals. This is only community for planners. We found, me and Lex connected over a wedding. Like I said, I do floral. So I did floral for one of her clients, and we both sat at, we were doing like a mock-up for the client, and we just sat and bounced ideas off of each other and talked. And she was like, hey, like, I'm dabbling with florals. Like, how did you get started? And then I started talking about my background in events and how like I really wanted to do more full service planning instead of just day of. And so we just like sat there for 2 hours talking. We were like, hey, like, this doesn't exist in our industry. We started our business and had no idea, like, we didn't know who to reach out to. We didn't know anything. So we started the Planners Collective with the mindset of creating that community, that safe space for planners at all levels. Like, we have people that have been in business for 5+ years. We have people that are not even, they just filed their business license. So we want to educate people. We take time to sit one-on-one with them, getting to know, what they need, what they want, and just being able to have that relationship with other planners where you can just say, hey, how did you do this? Or how did you deal with this? So we have the Seattle chapter that, last night was our second meeting. It's going really well. We have 10 members. We're wanting to keep it small to really create that foundation of people that want those authentic relationships. We don't want this to be another association that you just have on your resume, that you just show up maybe once or twice a year. This is a commitment and investment in yourself. And we believe that truly investing in yourself is very important for your business. So putting those hand in hand is going to level up your business. So exciting things happening with that. We've got Seattle going. We have Dallas. I'm actually going to be in Dallas next week working on that. And I just hired an assistant down there for my business. And she's also heading up, some of my planners collective down there as well. And then we're actually, by the end of this year, we foresee being in at least 5 or 6 other large, metropolitan areas. So we are very excited, and it's a lot of room for growth and development. And we really want to shake up the way the industry is looking, at least planners, that's what we are passionate about. And we want planners to be able to have that community.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, that's great. I so appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you for
I think
having
you
me.
really killed it. I really do. I think you did a good job. I'm glad that we could kind of finally get this going. And thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
If people want to learn more about you and everything you've got going on, where would you have them check out?
Sure. So, obviously check out our website, wanderingblooms.com. We've got Instagram, Wandering Blooms Events, Instagram for the Planners Collectives, and Seattle Planners Collective and Dallas Planners Collective. But just go look at the Planners Collective. You'll see all of our Instagrams going for that. But honestly, just keep connected with us on social media. From there, just check out our website. And other than that, reach out to us and grab a coffee, whatever. We want to get to know, our clients and even other vendors I take time to get to know too. So.
Well, perfect. Well, thanks again. If you're like Kelsey and you're interested in coming on the podcast, you can go to www.bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. And that's a nice, easy questionnaire to get on and fill out and kind of get you in the system. And hopefully we can get something scheduled. Thank you again. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.